We have about, 12 minutes left for a Q&A. So I'd like to invite Lassie, Payal, and Valeria back on stage. We'll do at least one round of questions. And if we have more time, we'll do another one. That's how these things roll. Lassie, are you in the house? Let's see.
I'm in the house, although I don't seem to have any control over my video. So unless someone can help me with that, you won't be seeing me talking.
You know what? I'll start with a question for Payal. Oh, there you are. Great to see you. I'll start with a question for Payal and Valeria, which was a question posed by Janice. And I thought this would be one that's provocative and interesting. She mentioned that there is a tension between how service design is sold by firms and why clients buy it and its service design potential. I think that's absolutely true. We sell what clients want to buy. So her question is, how do our business models need to evolve to actually evolve the practice of service design as well?
That's a really good question, actually. I think it's a thing that Valeria and I have often talked about. We don't sell service design, which maybe does shoot us in the foot. We sell a way of solving problems. And sometimes service designers play a part in that, and sometimes they don't. And I think one of the things we do a lot of, we spend a lot of time trying to understand what are core skills across the multiple practices that we have within our mix. And we spend a lot of time casting teams. We make sure that we have people with core and peripheral strengths come together to form effectively those crack or those ace teams that you want to have to try and solve a certain kind of problem. And of course, when we do that, we're very mindful that sometimes you may not have a core skill and you may want to try something. And so we make sure that if you want to try something, you can have a stab at it. But we never try and throw people into the deep end of the sea, assuming they can solve certain kinds of problems they don't feel comfortable solving. So often when we sell service design, we've sold effectively the idea of a team who's very confident of solving a problem. And sometimes service design plays a part in it.
I get that. And now let's get one more. Let's try to get back to the question of business model evolution. Do you think our business models need to evolve in the service design field? And if so, how?
Oh, I mean, I think it's the market itself is evolving, right? We are seeing more and more in-house roles and internal agencies, internal service designers. So I think in general, the market is evolving in a direction where potentially in the long term is going to make consultancies and consultants and contractors redundant. I don't think so, because what we have that in-house teams don't have is that variety of skills. We've seen it all. We've seen all the sectors, and we can really like link things around. My question back is like, do we need to change the way consulting and agency work works? So we've been exploring things like, instead of being paid on deliverables or time and material, maybe we just put some skin in the game with our clients and we try to co-invest in new ideas. So maybe like, I think it's the overall agency / consultancy business model that can change and share the risk with our own clients as well, not just service design itself. Is the wider sector question, I think.
Okay, thank you. Much more to explore over there, maybe another service design show episode. Lassie, I have a question for you, and I'm going to make it really simple. And this was a question posed by Alex. Data or data analysis, which one is more important?
Well, I don't think it's either or solution. I mean, data without analysis is pretty useless. I think that's one is pretty clear. But I think I personally prefer to try to make questions that are easy to analyze. I mean, there's no kind of shortage of very fancy analysis that you can throw on any complicated data set. The kind of opportunities in that front have really exploded since the dawn of new age of AI, because we can basically teach computers to find any kind of regularities out of data, which humans wouldn't be able to even do nowadays. But I think once you kind of go into that path, it's kind of slippery slope that are you going to understand the results of the analysis? So I'd say that the most important part is figuring out to ask the right questions, then get the right data, and then do the analysis. So I think analysis got the third stake here.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. I'm looking if there were also questions for Richard. I don't think somebody had a question, at least not publicly. So, Richard, what question did this project leave you with? So you won an award. This was a successful project, but at the end of a design project, there's always the next thing on the horizon. What is the next thing on the horizon? Which questions were left on your mind after doing this project?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the big thing that's going on in the hearing industry, I think, is that there's a lot of deregulation of hearing aids. So there are a lot of technology companies, like if you have AirPods, you can have a hearing setting that helps kind of with your hearing loss. So I think there's this bigger technology transformation that's kind of happening, and I think how the organization adapts to that situation, where maybe actually the product is not part of it at all, is a really interesting provocation for an organization that's like typically worked in that area. And I think they are thinking about it, but it's a big shift. But I think still at the core, they're like delivering great service and kind of relationships. So I think if they stick with that, I think there's still growth, independent of some of the technology considerations.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, we have a few minutes left, at least I think so. We'll make a few minutes. Payal and Valeria, a question from Katie, a great question, which is about what might the future for service design education look like in your evolution and expansion of the sector?
Payal needs to take this one because she always talks about this.
I think I really hope that we can stop talking about journeys and blueprints and personas and all of those things that we talk about at school. I'd actually build on what Richard was saying. I think service design is not design of digital products and therefore the peripheral things that come around it. Service design is so much broader in terms of really trying to articulate how we serve customers more consciously, how we build businesses better, and how we make sure that we have better clarity of the unintended consequences of our actions. And I think service design should not be taught as service design. Service design should be taught as other disciplines, and a coming together of those other disciplines could coherently create service designers of the future. I think it's become incredibly didactic, and I have massive issues with it. And I spend a lot of time, trying to poke holes in the pedagogy in various places, trying to see how far we can stretch it out of it. Because I think also Valeria and I come at it from different perspectives. I never studied service design, and Valeria did.
Mm-hmm. That's everything I've done in my life. I'm so boring.
But what is fascinating, and what was in fact an implosion when we met, was the agreement that it wasn't one thing, and the agreement that the only way this became more interesting for anyone to practice was to, put all of the things we know to be the tools of the trade aside and really start thinking about how do you solve good problems.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think more kind of broadly, there's always been this tension between sort of design and language, where design is about experiences and things that are a little bit intangible, and then we put words to them that put them into buckets, and it's a different part of the brain that's actually kind of engaged when you're doing that. So there's a tension there.
Yeah, completely. Like it's incredible how much our own taxonomy traps us, and how much language matters, and the semantics of what we do, and the semantics of how we pull things together. Like very often I look at marketing segmentation, and it's called personas, because it's a new thing to say. And more often than not, you begin to sort of start looking at how people just adopt new language because it makes it sound like you're doing something different, but you're not actually doing different things. And I think, which is why not being, I've spent years being very protective of things that are service design. And I feel like I'm now getting to that point where I almost want to release it into the ether and almost let everyone do, whatever they want to do with it, but constantly point out that our taxonomy isn't all encompassing, and there's so much more to what we do.
I think it's an entire ecosystem, because education taps into hiring, and hiring is how organizations are structured. You are in positions where you actually can hire people. So I think that, for instance, influences how education is shaped. It's a messy thing.
Exactly, and I think Valeria would tell you that, Valeria has this rule where someone mentions a journey or a blueprint in an interview, Valeria chooses not to hire them.
No. What I always say is that I always hire people that worked in the service industry. So like if you've been a waiter or a waitress or a chef or anything, like someone that had hands-on experience in actually delivering a service, it's they're one step ahead. But actually I wanted to talk about an example. Last year I was mentoring a student at LCC here in London, and he went back to Singapore to set up a new service design course. And we were really talking about which kind of capabilities, because it was they were needed, because he was setting up this course in a technical university. So we were really looking at what does hospitality needs. So it was really interesting working with him at looking at like practical things that people when they're like 18, 19, 20 years old need in order to design and deliver better services. I think it was a really good example of how there is a different direction that is not just academia or just blueprints and journeys, etc.
And on that note, I'm going to already sort of wrap up this Q&A. So many questions left on my mind. Maybe next time we'll just do a 1 hour Q&A. Thank you, Lassie. Thank you, Valeria. Thank you, Payal. Thank you, Richard, for coming on stage, doing this block.